No, we're good. It's Maui. Maui got hit hard. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, Tennessee. Shalom, Paul. Veronica, Kay, and Melody, and James, Ben Schwegel, Victoria, and Captain Ron.
Just one day in your house.
You guys know what today is?
It's better than
We are winning. We got a lot of rain, no flooding here on this property, but in other places it have been. He will keep us protected, brother. It is. We're on the new year. Yep. It's the 29th. Very good, Veronica. Marty, we got about 99% of it planted. We were like, I mean, we'll talk about it.
oh, how my soul loves leaving face for the courts of the one Yahweh. My heart and my flesh then cried out for the living Elohim. How blessed are the
South Africa. And of course, one more. Please share. Give us a thumbs up. Let everybody know we're live. How about Shira Lama Alut? It's another favorite. Welcome, everyone. We'll get started in just a moment. Important time of the year. Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to another broadcast here at the CodeSearcher. Hope the question's already coming before we can even get started. What's that puppy doing? Is she stuck somewhere? Okay. All right. All right. So, you guys, it is the 29th. I told you we're gonna walk this out together. Exodus 12 is whereabouts we would be if we were the children in the Exodus, right? Where this is given, it's laid out how the years, months are going to be kept, right? So even before they're leaving, he was giving them little bits and pieces of his plan. Can you guys see that? All right, so they want to talk about the new moon. Let's get that out of the way before we go there. How do we determine the new year, you guys? We've been talking about it. And so I realize there's some that are going to be popping in and just dropping by and haven't seen all of the other broadcasts that we've done. So we're probably going to have to reiterate and talk about things over and over again, okay? Because that's kind of how it is. People are going to come in and be like, what? All right. So help me out here, honey. This year, and I'm looking at this as being a nod from the Father, an acknowledgement that this particular thing is happening. So for most people, it is going to be a 2-day new moon, except for Hawaii.
And Australia.
And Australia.
Yep.
So Australia and Hawaii, I've already seen people messaging from Australia down there. It is going to be a 1-day new moon. And so this is really kind of special because he's saying right here, start here, right? He could have done that anywhere all the way around the the timeline.
Technically, it is a 1-day new moon every month, but we're dealing with a Gregorian calendar with
Right.
a date line. That's why it is 1 or 2 days.
Man's involvement, date lines and things like this. So, all right. So we are looking for the new moon closest to, or is it also
Closest
after?
to- It's the closest to. Whether
The
it's
closest to.
before or after, which one everyone's closest.
All right.
to.
So either way, in the past few years, it's been before, right? It's been right before. And we've even seen some really small, a very, very small sliver in the sky when we saw it. So we've been the first to see the sliver. This is not our first rodeo. We're going to take you up on the mountain with us. We've gone up every year to sight the moon at New Year. And so we're going to do that again and show you. So there's a few things. Remember, we're observation. There's several things that we need to consider to know that we're in the correct time of the year. Okay. And that would also be with Abib, the condition of the barley, also what the animals are doing. This time of the year, you'll see more activity in nature, even when it's raining. My bees are getting at it right now, you guys. Very active because there are things blooming everywhere. All right. It's happening because the day is getting longer. All right. So it has a lot to do with the sun and the time the sun is on the plants. Right. They begin to respond. Many plants are sensitive. They respond when the days get longer. And they know when to start blooming, right, and producing fruit. Okay. So the other thing is we're going to see the moon in a particular form that you won't see any other time of the year. It's like a harvest bowl. It'll just be kind of, I'll point it out when we see it and show you what it looks like. Every other time of the year, every month, you're going to see it at an angle, depending on where you are in the world, obviously. But that's the way it is. So, Exodus 12 is where we read. Who lays this out through Moses and Aaron. Right. So and Yahuwah spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Mitzrayim. So they haven't left yet at this time, right? This is right before the Passover, right? Just like now. I mean, exactly like now. This is like to the day, okay? Yahuwah spoken to Moses and Aaron, said, in the land of Mitzrayim, saying, this is the month, this month is the beginning of months for you. It is the first month of the year for you. Speaking to all the congregation of Israel, saying, on the 10th day of this month, each one is to take them is to take for himself a lamb according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. And of the household is too small for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of beatings, according to each man's need. You make your count the lamb. Let the lamb be a perfect one, a year-old male, and take it from the sheep take it from sheep or from the goats. Did you guys even know that? I mean, I know it says separating sheep from goats, but most people believe that goats is an unclean animal or something. It's not. It's kosher, right? So it says take from the sheep or the goats. So you have little babies, 1 year old in those. That's what it's talking about. And you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. And this is pretty intense, you guys, because you in that time, it was taken into the home by a family. And you know what children do in mamas? They get close to things, right? Like little dogs and little puppies, right? Or anything, any kind of little animal, your kids are going to be like bonding with it, right? That's kind of the point, right? So when the time comes that this little animal was to give his life in those days, you guys, to cover that family, because that's what it was. It was an atonement at this time. This was representing what Yeshua was going to do. So it was a covering. It covered them for the year. That's it. And then they had to do it again the next year. This was all through their generations, right? He was telling them to do this until the time of Yeshua. All right. So everybody be very clear. We're not trying to Judaize you here and say you got to go get a sheep or a lamb and go kill it and put it on your doorpost. No, that is not what I'm suggesting. I'm pointing out in the first ones, when he was establishing this is what happened. And so, today we commemorate it after the Seder that Yeshua had with his disciples, because he had that one day before the Passover, because he was going to be on the cross on Passover. So the night before, which would have been what, daughter, the 14th, right? We're talking about the 14th for Yeshua having a Seder with his disciples. No, that would have been the 13th. Yes. Is that, I know there's someone asking me right now about 3 days and 3 nights in the grave, and I'm trying to show them how this is.
Yeah, he died on the 14th.
He dies on the 14th. He has the Seder with his disciples on the 13th. Okay. And he's explaining to them all this time, you guys, you've been having to do this, because they're all Hebrews, they're Jews, and they're all required to do this. Right? So Yeshua's teaching them for what I'm the fulfillment of it, basically. And we know that. He says all of the word testifies unto him. And he was fulfilling these feasts verbatim to the moment. So the moment Yeshua was on the cross, giving his life as the sacrifice, the priests in the temple were also doing the sacrifices for the Passover. And as we all know, the veil was rent. Yahuwah rent his garment, as it were. When the high priest was to annul his priesthood, he rent his garment down the chest, and that would annul his priesthood. And Yahuwah does the same thing. He rips it all the way down, right? It happens at that time. So there's a fulfillment in it. Yet Yeshua says, every time you do this, remember me, right? He was not establishing the Eucharist, you guys. And I get it. I have Catholics in my own family. But there's Catholics all around the world that are pissed off that I'm telling you that they are certain Jonathan is going to hell, going to burn in hell for that. But I'm telling you with assurance and confidence and truth, Yeshua was teaching them the meaning of the Passover. He wasn't creating something new, you guys. He was explaining to them the fulfillment of it. And they may not have even got it at that night. But I guarantee you, after he come out of that grave, they got it. They understood. You hear me? They put it together. They understood because they had been doing it for 1,500 years. They knew about matzah, right? Unleavened. The piercing, even to this day, that bread is pierced and it's kind of bruised looking because when it's baked, it gets the brown part on it. Bruised and pierced. The imagery is all there. And it was always there. Even in ancient time, they still do matzah that way. And so I'm confident he is standing there showing them the bread and saying, this is my body. It's broken for you. I'm giving it for you. Right? Yeshua spoke all the time in enigmas and parables. At this moment, he's explaining to them. He was not establishing the Eucharist, you guys. That came from the Catholic Church. And it is a ritual from the Catholic Church. And the Protestants adopted it, took it with them when they left. And that's what it is. It's something different than what Yeshua was doing. And so this is why I keep Passover, because he said to, for all your generations, and Yeshua said, remember me when you do it. This is why, right? He is the sheep that gave his life, the lamb. You shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. Then all the assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it between the evenings. And they shall take some of the blood and put it on the doorpost, on the lintel of the house where they eat it. This is what we do. We take some kind of red satin or, some kind of textile that's red. Not ribbon. It's not ribbon. What is that stuff, Darla, that we use? It's like a...
I just walked in.
Okay, so the red we use over the doorpost. What do you use? It's like velvet or something?
Just a piece of fabric.
Piece of fabric. I don't know what kind of fabric. It's just red. And it just represents the blood.
Yeah.
And so we would put it when we had a door. We had to improvise with the tents. But in Utah, we would have that over the door, and that represented, right? So this was us remembering in all our generations. We weren't adding to or anything. We just certainly wasn't going to kill a lamb to do that because we understood it's been fulfilled. So that was just kind of us acknowledging.
We write the blood of Yahushua in Hebrew.
Now, yeah, that's right. We did that on a piece of cedar and set it outside the door of our tent there. We wrote it in Paleo Hebrew, or Darla did, Paleo Hebrew, the blood of Yeshua in Paleo Hebrew there. Again, representing what was done in these times, right? And again, we come after Yeshua, so it's all about remembering him. You follow, right? But this is where it goes back to. All right. Something in my mouth here.
We just found out today that the fast of Esther was on the 14th, 15th, and 16th of Abib.
So I don't want to give them too much at one time, but that's a good point. That's a good point, and even proving the lunar calendar with that, because you can see the 15th there, which is become now a Shabbat Zakor, a Shabbat to remember, meaning very similar to what Yeshua established. Every time you do this, remember me, right? Zakor. It's the same thing with the story of Esther in chapter 9, specifically, where that happens. And this is to commemorate what Yeshua did for them in giving them the victory. So every year when that day comes around, it's remembered. It's the Shabbat to remember. It was always a Shabbat, but this particular one, when Yeshua did what he did, it's now a Shabbat to remember. Does that make sense? I can't see the chat.
Historically, it's a time that the Father is preserving the people.
Yeah, but he's also preserving his calendar too, because he knew we were going to find this.
Yeah, that too.
He knew we were going to find this, you guys, and come back to him in that way. because you see, Pentecost is a misnomer, you guys. What do you mean by that, CodeSearcher? It's not what it appears. Pentecost is a Greek word. It means 50. But when you look closely at the text, it's not just counting 51 time. It just says it differently. Excuse me, got a hiccup trying to come up. It is counting 50 twice. And because of that, you have 2 new moons in there, which is 2 more days. That's 102 days, which happens to be the growth, the life cycle of wheat between 102 and 20 days. You cannot harvest wheat at 50 days. And that you guys are finding, that's not the correct grain. That's very akin to barley, which you can grow in like 90 days. But you cannot grow wheat, especially summer wheat, that you're harvesting in the summertime. It takes 4 months to grow that. And that is where Yahuwah preserved his law forever, locked in that cycle. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, when you plant wheat, it's going to take you that long. Unless you're working with GMO stuff, which we happen to see in real time is causing issues, you guys, giving false readings and things like that, right? The fields having splotches of good grain and bad grain all in the same field. It's inconsistent. It's unnatural. I wouldn't try to use that to declare a bead for those witnesses that are in the land trying to do that. I would try to go with as organic as possible and uphill, not downhill, where you guys have been looking, where it's getting all that water. All right, just saying, I'm not condemning anybody. All right, so you're gonna have a barbecue, you guys. That's what Passover is today, and how we commemorate it and remember it. It is a family thing. This is not a feast where you invite people off the street. This Passover is for the Hebrews. All right. Sukkot might be something that you invite friends over to partake with you. But Passover, that should be those in your household, right? In your doors, in your dwellings, okay? Because we're supposed to stay in our dwellings too, right? You're Rick in the background. So that's how we do it. We're going to be sharing that with you guys when the time comes. I'm going to be live streaming how we, it's very simple. I don't do anything extravagant. We just cook some lamb over a flame, and we have a meal together. And we remember Yeshua, just like he said. And then we eat matzah for a week. And that's it. That's it. And it's to remember, like it says in verse 14, and this day shall become a remembrance. You shall observe it as a festival to you throughout your generation. Observe it as a festival, as an everlasting law. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Indeed, on the first day you shall cause leaven to cease from your houses. Right? So meaning getting the leaven out of your house. You should have it done by them. For whosoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, he shall be cut off from Israel. So, these Shabbats and these feasts, Yeshua says, this is a sign that you're mine, that you're one of my kids, right? This is how the world knows. And so there's specifics involved that he requires. He asks, don't try to modify things when he has a specific stating, don't do this, right? And there's always a reason for why he's telling us to do this. So, don't have any, cheating moments where you got little cupcakes and things like that hidden away. Be real with him. If you're going to do this, don't be lukewarm. Is what I'm trying to say. Don't be lukewarm, you guys. When be zealous for his feast. Don't go overboard where you drive yourself crazy, but also just don't drag your feet on it. Really try to do this. It's not a burden like the Christians have tried to tell you. Actually, when we get this thing right and we get into sync with him, it's a different walk, you guys, than what we were taught in Christianity. I'm telling you because I know both. All right. There's a There's a connection that happens when you honor him and are obedient to what he says. And I wouldn't tell you that unless I really believe it, okay? You shall guard the festival of unleavened bread. Well, listen, the reason for that, you guys, unleavened bread, this festival, is the day of the giving of the law. When the disciples were in the upper room at Pentecost, you guys, it was Shavuot, and it wasn't at 3 months. It was at 4 months, specifically around the 29th day, right there of the 4th month. That's how long it takes. And it was always like that since Yahuwah established it. So there's no question that those that were following Yeshua, when he said wait, they had to wait for a Moedim to come. It was an appointed time that had to happen. And they were there. And that was when the windows of heaven were open. And what did he do? He poured out his spirit upon them. This is where the tongues of fire, they said, dwell among them. This is why it's important to get this day right, you guys. And you must understand that Pentecost is a misnomer, and it's misleading, intentional misleading. First of all, Yahuwah allowed it to happen, but I believe the enemy wanted to cut you off from that day, and he did it through the church. That is the absolute truth. Also through the Jews. Aided and abetted in the whole thing. And really made up another day. You know, what's this at the 50th point? They were observing Shavuot. That was what the Moedim was. Yeshua said, don't you say it's still 4 months until the harvest? Where's that at? In John? Still 4 months until the harvest? What takes 4 months to grow? Still to this day, it's wheat. This summer wheat. Okay. So in this harvest, he preserved his law. And even man, through manipulation with GMO and all that, couldn't even, sever that. Everything else was severed. And he's locked these feasts in with his word. Unleavened bread. That is what was happening when they were observing that day in ancient times, you guys, in the upper room. It was Shavuot, the festival of weeks. You must understand this. And I think that it's diabolical that the enemy kind of did a bait and switch with that through time. The way was sanitized by Constantine, made less Jewish. Okay. So where did this Pentecost come from? The counting of 50. They give you half of what the verse says, you guys, and you just think it's counting 50. Because you're not a farmer, you don't grow wheat, you don't understand. It's impossible to grow wheat in 50 days. That's what the whole feast is about. It's a festival of the harvest. How can you have it at 50 days? It's impossible. And so that's why I call it a misnomer. So for 2,000 years now, not more like 2,400, something like that. 1,400. Is at the time of Constantine when all this was changed and they basically sanitized. So that long, a misnomer. And where did it get them? Show me anywhere else where that event that happened in the upper room, where you were poured out his spirit, happened again. Anywhere else? It didn't. Not on that level. Well, John, what happened at Azusa? Really? Okay. I suggest to you that is not what happened at Azusa, but that's just my opinion. I can't prove it, but I do know this. They were observing the feast, the Moedim, and they understood that these days were important to the Father, right? So that is why he preserved it there, because man was going to alter it through time, and this couldn't be altered. It was locked in this cycle. All right. It shall become to your remembrance. You shall observe it. I mean, if the scripture is telling you shall be a remembrance, what is the enemy going to do? He's going to alter that in some way. Oh, really? Going to be a remembrance? I'll just change the day. That's exactly what happened. And you shall observe the festival unto you all throughout your generations. Observe it as a festival and everlasting law. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Indeed, on the first day you shall cause leaven to cease from your houses. For whosoever eats unleavened bread from the first until the 7th day shall be cut off from Israel. And on the first day is a set apart gathering, and on the 7th day you have a set apart gathering. No work is to be done on them, only that which is eaten by every being, that alone is prepared by you. And you shall guard the festival of unleavened bread. Netzarim, guard. That's what Netzarim do. Guard the word, guard the festivals. Don't let it be altered or taught incorrectly. Guard it. For on this same day that I brought your divisions out of the land of Israel, and you shall guard this throughout your generation as an everlasting law. You guys, that's not nailed to the cross there. He's telling you forever, remember this day. This is the day. I mean, Yeshua's crucified, buried, and resurrected in this time. He's fulfilled this. And so remembering this, what do they do today? It's called Easter. Has nothing to do with this. And yet most Christians feel it's legit. And he knows my heart. And I'm not Jewish. All irrelevant to what he states here. You shall guard the festival. For it is on this day that I brought your divisions out of the land of Mizraim. You shall guard this day throughout your generations as an everlasting law. That's only for the Jews. No, he's talking to all of Israel. And those 10 tribes are still in diaspora right now, you guys. And most of those people are Christians and Muslims. Okay? That's just a fact. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, in the evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month in the evening. All right, so the 21st day of the month. This is going to be, what's by the way, what's the next day? What's the 22nd? And always is. It's a Shabbat. So you got this feast in here, right, with high Shabbats. It's be the same way in the other feast sequence. 7-day feast, Sukkot, high Shabbat. For 7 days, no leaven is to be found in your houses. If anyone eats what is leavened, and the same being shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether sojourner or native of the land. Do not eat that which is leavened in all your dwellings, and you are to eat unleavened bread. And Moshe called for the elders of Israel and said unto them, go out and take lambs for yourself according to your clans and slaughter the Passover lamb. Right? And you shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin and strike it on the lintel and the 2 doorposts with the blood that is in the basin. And you, none of you shall go out of the door until his house until morning. Right? This is on the 14th. This is happening. The next day is a Shabbat, the 15th. Right? They can't do any work. And when did they leave? When are they leaving Egypt? That evening. They left Egypt on the evening of the 15th. Go read it. It took them a month to get through the wilderness and get to the crossing and get to Elim. Because they got there on the same time they left, which was the 15th of the month. Right? In the evening, they got quailed, right? Because it's no longer Shabbat. They got there in the morning, had Shabbat. Yahuwah fed them. Then he gave them what? The work week. You're going to see this. And Yahuwah shall pass on this and to smite the Mitzrites and shall see the blood on the lintel and on the 2 doorposts, and Yahuwah shall pass over the door and not allow the destroyer to come into your house to smite you. That word right there is very interesting. It's very similar to the word Mashiach. Very same letters, just arranged just differently. One letter. It's interesting. And you shall guard this word as a law for you and your sons forever. And it shall be when you come into the land which Yahuwah gives you, as he promised, that you shall guard his service. And it shall be when your children say unto you, what does this service mean to you? And you shall say, it is a Passover slaughtering of Yahuwah, who passes over the houses of children of Israel in Mizraim when he smote the Mitzrites and delivered our households. And the people bowed their heads in obedience. And the children of Israel went away and did so. And as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe and Aaron, they did. And it came to be at midnight that Yahuwah smote all the firstborn of the land of Mitzrayim, and the firstborn of Pharaoh, who sat on his throne, the firstborn of the captives who were in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of the livestock. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, and he and all his servants and all the Mitzrites, and there was a great cry in Mitzrayim, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. And he called from Moshe and Aaron by night and said, arise and go out from the midst of my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go and serve Yahuwah as you have said. Take both your flocks and your herds as you have said. So see there, you guys, they had animals that they were taking with them. This is how they had animals at the feet of the mountain when they start to sacrifice the animals. They brought them with them. They took provisions with them. I think they were pretty covered. All they could carry for a month probably ran out by the time they got to the crossing, which is good because you want to cross that lightly, right? You don't want to have a bunch of things, right? And so they get to the other side and they don't have no food, no water. Okay. But they did have flocks, and this took a lot of logistics to do. And the Mitzrites urged the people to hasten and send them away out of the land of Israel, for they said, we are all dying. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, and having their kneading bowls bound up in their garments on their shoulders. And the children of Israel had done according to the word of Moshe. And they had asked from the Mitzrites objects of silver and gold and garments. Yahuwah gave the people favor in the eyes of Mitzrayim. And they gave them what they asked, and they plundered the Mitzrites. I need to blow that up a little bit, guys. That's why it's at 100. Better, more better. And the children of Israel set out from Ramesses to Succoth, right? This, by the way, you guys, is a place, not the Ramses. This has caused a lot of confusion over the years. And that's a whole other teaching to prove that this is not Ramses, the Pharaoh. It is not him. It's a place. And it's down in Goshen. And so they go to Succoth, about 600,000 men on foot, besides the little ones. And a mixed multitude went up with them too, also flocks and herds, very much livestock. And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they had brought out of the land of Mitzrayim, for it was not leavened. And since they were driven out of Mitzrayim, they had not been able to delay. See, they had to keep going. They only stopped to rest and sleep. They didn't dwell. They slept, they got up and go, right? Probably eating as they're going, right? Eating all this unleavened bread. And it came to be at the end of 430 years that on the same day that it came to be, all the divisions of Israel went out of the land of Israel, out of the land of Mitzrayim. And it was a night to be observed unto Yahuwah for bringing them out of the land of Mitzrayim. This night unto Yahuwah is to be observed by all the children of Israel, not just the Jews, all the children of Israel throughout your generations. And Yahuwah said unto Moshe and Aaron, this is a law of the Passover. No son of a stranger is to eat of it, but any servant of man which is brought for silver, then you have circumcised him and let him eat of it, right? You had to be circumcised to eat of the Passover. And a sojourner and a hired servant does not eat of it. It is to be eaten in one house, and you're not to take any of the flesh outside of the house, nor do you break any of the bone. This is important too, because Yeshua also did not have a broken bone in his body. right? All the congregation of Israel are to perform it. And when a stranger sojourns with you and shall perform the Passover to Yahuwah, let all his males be circumcised, and then let them come near and perform it. And he shall be as a native of the land. Let no uncircumcised eat of it. This is one Torah for the native born and for the stranger who sojourns among them. And all the children of Israel did as Yahuwah commanded Moshe and Aaron, so they did. And it came to be on that same day that Yahuwah brought the children of Israel out of the land of Mitzrayim according to their divisions. And that is the Exodus. Of course, that is just chapter 12. And if you recall in the code table that we looked at, which was the anointed of Yahuwah is coming, it falls right there where Moses is coming to the mountain with the children of Israel. Quite fascinating. I got a student here with me. Shalom. We got what's going on in the chat? I haven't been able to see the chat. What? Somebody asked what? What? What a dumb question. Have I been a bad husband, honey? Not at all, she says. Why would she leave me? Crazy. Yeah, that's the other thing. Okay, so Shemitah is and let me just say this, prefect this first. If you're not a farmer or you're not a homesteader, this doesn't apply to you. But if you are, you should consider the Shemitah year and observing that, allowing the land to rest. This is also part of the pattern of Yahuwah. It is a like a cadence that Yahuwah's gotten. This 50-year Jubilee pattern. I mean, there's some. Where's it in the Torah where he says, "I will not strive with man, but 120 years," which is essentially, he's not telling us that men will live to 120. He's saying he's laying out the Jubilees, which is 6,000 years. 120 Jubilees. That is the time we're into now, you guys. So there have been many who have tried to reckon the true Jubilee. All of that was lost, just like everything else, altered, lost, changed. And so there are many scholars who have done work trying to reckon that out. Jonathan Kahn wrote about the Shemitah. You guys have heard that word before. It's called, the word literally means to release, right? But in agriculture, you're allowing the land to rest every 7 years, and you do not harvest and you do not sow in that year. You can only care for the land, right? So you allow the land to rejuvenate. That's what's taking place. So we don't eat of the fruit of the land. Only the animals can. And all we can do is care for the land. And Yahuwah said, if you do this, your harvest will be bountiful. And it's true. It's a big reason why there was a dust bowl in the United States. When that happened, there was a famine that happened. Man had misused the land for many, many years. And Yahuwah just blew it away. There was nothing holding that soil down. When they had the dust bowl, the wind just blew it away, you guys. And it was devastating. There was a judgment on the land. I think it could have been tied to not observing Shemitah, which is a biblical principle, but there are many farmers to this day who observe this principle. Also planting and harvesting according to the correct months of the lunar solar calendar. Harvest times are determined by these things. Planting times are determined by these things. You can just go pick a day and go plant whatever. It may not work out well. It may fail, right? If you do it at the wrong time. So we've been trying to get all of that taken care of because we're coming up to Shemitah at this new moon. We're going into a Shemitah year. So that's why we've been kind of pressed to get our seed in the ground, get the trees planted. I had a lot of pineapple to get planted and cacao, probably 125 trees and probably 30 or 40 pineapple and some grass. So it was pretty intense past couple of days. I'll let the end of the year get here and try to get everything done at the last moments. Right. Sometimes it happens like that. Can you do a code on the Gregorian date of Passover 5781 for a confirmation? The Gregorian date. Well, I mean, that is going to be March 26th, 27th. Is that what it is, Darla?
Yeah, I think it's the 27th or 28th, whatever Saturday and
Right.
Sunday is.
Right.
One of those 2 days.
It's going to be around there is where it's going to be, guys, if you're looking at the Gregorian.
Yeah, it'll be 27th or 28th.
Yeah. So we still got a couple of weeks. You guys, you got time to prepare for this. We're at the new, we're determining the month right now, right? We got to get this day right, day one, and do our count. This will take us to that time, right? So you got these 2 weeks to prepare if you haven't already. And we'll do it together. I'll show you what we're doing. It's nothing, lavish or extravagant or burdensome. It's very simple. My kids love the lamb.
Cleaning the leaven out is a thing.
Well, that's a thing. Nobody likes that.
That's called spring cleaning.
Right. You're basically doing a spring cleaning is what getting the leaven is. Getting the leaven out is a spring cleaning. If you really want to get down to it, but I get it. Nobody likes spring cleaning, but this is a healthy thing.
It's a fresh new start.
That's right. It's a fresh new start. It's a new year, fresh start. So, it's the time to do your spring cleaning. So that's the tradition, or not tradition, bad word. That is the pattern we've got into over the years.
That's where spring cleaning came from.
Did it really? I didn't know that.
Yes.
I just thought, wow, this is ingenious. It falls in a good time of the year to do this. See, Yahuwah has a reason why everything is the way they are. He has a purpose and a plan for it. Did you want to say anything, honey?
No.
Are you sure? Nothing? So we're going to take you guys up with us on the mountain tomorrow to sight the moon. I think this will be the first time, no, well, it wasn't the first time. This has happened before with us up there on this time, right? Did we have like the equinox
There was an eclipse that we went up there for. And
yeah,
I
but
think
I
that
wasn't
was
talking about that. This was a New Year observation, and it was happening a little bit earlier than normal.
Oh, I know yes, we did go up there.
Yeah.
And it was basically March 7th.
And it was like, March 7th, and that crescent was so small.
And that's about it.
But we were the only ones in the world that saw it here in Hawaii. We were the first ones to see it. Let me just rephrase that. The rest of the world saw it after that. So we sighted it first. And it looks like this is what's going to happen again for Hawaii, Indonesia, and Australia. That's pretty cool. So you got a couple of weeks, you guys, to get your stuff ready. Even if you can't get any lamb, just get some chicken, roast some chicken, right?
So what do you say about, I think the person wanting a code is probably regarding the fact that some people may have started the year in February,
right,
and some will start in April.
Right. And I've seen that happening. I mean, people are doing that. And, I'm not going to, obviously believe they're wrong. I mean, I just have to say that, but I'm not going to condemn them. They're trying to get they're observing, right? They're just observing on the wrong day, but they're observing. But if you really want to be technical and be, observe it to the day, to the moment, because he said so, right? Then don't try to do this with a Gregorian calendar or a Roman calendar at all. You use Yahuwah's calendar because it's going to put you in the wrong spot. Rome did a lot of damage, you guys. Pentecost is a misnomer. They hid the day from you intentionally because they don't want you to be connected. They don't want you to have the pouring out of the Spirit like they did in the upper room, guys, because that's when it happened on Shavuot, which is a counting of 50 times 2. The exact time it takes for wheat, incidentally, coincidentally, not even. It's by design. Yahuwah locked it in that way. Shalom, Peter. I see Peter's here. It's a little windy today. I thought it was going to pour down rain on us. We did get some sunshine today. So it's been a very pleasant Shabbat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
been raining down on us.
Right. That's what I mean. It hasn't been so bad. People were worried about us that we were, flooded out because of everything happening in Maui. It wasn't that bad here, you guys.
We had wet feet.
We just got muddy and a little wet feet working in the rain, but we didn't get flooded out. And we're kind of up on a hill, by the way. Anyway, we're not down at the bottom at a draw, so that's a good place to be at the top of the hill. Yeah, that's a good one, Veronica. The 3 witnesses of the gospel. What are the 3 witnesses of the gospel? Or what is the gospel? It's not New Testament. Also a misnomer. Yeshua tells you what the gospel is in Luke 24:44. It's the Torah, the prophets, and the writings. It's the Tanakh. That's the scriptures. Anytime you see them in the New Testament, talk about the scriptures or it is written, they're talking about the Old Testament. They ain't talking about the New Testament. It wasn't even around. It was not even there. So how could they be, talking about what Paul said? He hadn't said it yet. We did get our seed. We got most of our seeds planted. I still have grass seed I haven't got planted, but we got everything planted. The trees, the pineapple. I was going to move some bananas, but I just decided to leave them there where they are. But yeah, we got everything else done. Thank you for praying for us, you guys, to get that done. When does what start for the Passover day? What do you? So that is going to be March 27th, 28th, around there, around that time. We'll know more how we see the moon. So that'll be different for me than if you're, somewhere else other than me. Obviously, because we're going to see the moon the day before you guys. We're expecting to, right? Again, we're not taking it for granted just because it's been calculated. That's probably going to be the thing. We're physically going to go up there and look and see. And when we see, then we know for sure. Okay. But you guys are going to be able to see before us anyway. Right. Because we're behind you on the timeline, you guys. So the day is 4:30 here now for me, but for the East Coast, it's much later. So you guys will be able to see the sky before I do at night and see if the moon is there.
Right.
And
Shabbat is over there.
Huh?
Shabbat is over on the East Coast.
Yeah. I'm talking about for the new moon.
Exactly. Same kind of concept.
Yeah. So that'll be our plan for tomorrow. We'll take you guys up there and do a live stream, which would be kind of cool. Make sure you join us for that. And I'll let you guys know. And then we'll we'll start a count. Then we'll get to Passover. We'll observe that. We'll observe unleavened bread and continue, what they call the Omer, or getting to Passover. We're gonna reconcile that in that season. So that's what I mean by walking this out together. So you're gonna be a lot of review, you guys, until we get it. All right. So when we see the sliver of the moon, we know that new moon is over. Does that make sense? So when you don't see it, when it's dark, it's conjunction. But when you see it, you know it's over. The new moon is when you can't see it, not when you see the sliver. That's not new moon. It's when you cannot see it. In other words, when it's concealed in darkness. That's what the word chaseh means. Not what the way King James interpret. These Hebrew words, some of these words can be polar opposite, meaning a positive and a negative. In this case, King James translated that to be covered in light, which is why some people think that the full moon is a new moon, but it is not. The new moon is when you cannot see it. And every meteorologist will tell you that. And just about every fisherman will tell you the same thing. If they consider those things, you might have a fisherman who don't even consider those things, which is possible, but I would guarantee you they're probably not really good at fishing, because I learned really quickly that the fish are very sensitive to the moon and its cycle. And there's just some days you are not going to catch any fish because they're not active. But then there are other days when you can go and you can't get them in fast enough. They're biting everything. What causes this? It's the moon that does it. Yeah. I learned that years ago. Old salties taught me that. The old timers. Oh, you shouldn't go fishing today, son. You're not going to catch anything. How you know that? Moon's bad. Really? I thought he was pulling my leg. No, it's really something to it. He said, I'll tell you when you can go fishing. You're going to catch them all day. Wouldn't you know it when you listen? You go fishing on that day, sure enough, just can't reel them in fast enough. You knew what he was talking about. Been around the block a few times. Right? That's true. It's not just with fish. Many animals are, active that way. You know that? Animals respond to the moon. My cows like when it's a full moon. They love to go grazing at night when it's a full moon. They won't do that every other night, but they'll do it on the full moon. Is it just because they can see? Maybe. But it just so happens it's also a time when I was a cat fisherman, that was a good time to go catfishing at the full moon. The other time to go was new moon. Just what it is. All right, you guys. I think I'm going to end the broadcast here, and we will see you tomorrow. I'm going to enjoy the rest of our Shabbat and get something to eat, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, Shabbat Shalom, and He will bless you. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Please hit that bell. If you're not getting notified, you guys hit the bell so you'll get some kind of indicator. We need to get maybe some kind of real-time email list where you guys get notification that way. Shalom, Anna. I see you. All right, you guys. We love you. May He bless you. We'll see you tomorrow.